Welcome to The Art of Being Unstoppable, the podcast where women from every walk of life come together to break barriers, embrace their power, and live life on their own terms. I'm your host, Vicki McDougall, and each week we explore inspiring stories, actionable strategies, and empowering conversations to help you step into your confidence, amplify your voice, and create a life without limits. No matter where you are on your journey, this is your space to grow, thrive, and become unstoppable. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Today, I have someone very special on the podcast today. Shalika Pareek is here, and I pronounced your name correctly, correct?
Yes, you did.
We were just talking before we jumped on that, I never want to mispronounce someone's name because it's very important. So I just wanted to say that I am very happy that you're here, and I'm very, very happy that you're going to share your story with us and with all of our listeners. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. So first of all, you're from the New York area, right?
Yes, I live in Hoboken, which is right on the border of New York and New Jersey.
Perfect.
So, yes.
Awesome. So do you find, are you in a bigger city or are you in the suburbs?
Well, this area is primarily like an urban area, but also it has the feel of a cozy suburban feel. So
Does it?
it's a little bit of both. So I kind of live in between of those two worlds
That's
in some
awesome.
sense.
I
Yeah.
love that. I really do. I'm always curious, on, people from different parts of the country and what it's like there. I mean, New York is so busy and beautiful, but busy, right? And to be able to be
Yeah.
that close, it's a really cool thing. So I would
It
like
is.
you
Yeah.
to share a little bit about you with our audience. I know that you've really shifted your life in the last little while. So let's share a little bit about you.
Okay, so I grew up in India. Uh, my parents, grew up. They were very humble beginnings. My dad was in the army. Fast forward, I saw him work really hard. Um, I went to London to do my fashion design. Came back, uh, started a career in fashion in India, working with Europe. Um, Fast forward from there, I moved to US I would say about 18, 19 odd years ago, uh, with my then husband, who had a job in American Express and, in New York City.
Yeah.
Had my kids, and that itself is a lifetime,
Mm.
you know. And I would say about a year and a half ago, I kind of started, I went through, my husband and I, we kind of split. And so, um, I started my journey into interior design because, for the last couple of years, I was sort of like dabbling into it. I had a lot of friends encourage me to take it on because they saw my home. They saw that, I was basically renovating as I went along. And I think we must have moved about 6 or 7 times. So each time we moved, I renovated the space. And then, that kind of like when we sold the property, it just made more money. And it's just something that kind of really interested me. And it was very connected to the line that I was already in. Um, and the past year has been incredibly, what can I say? It's been exciting.
Oh
It's been
yeah,
an
I
adventure.
bet.
It's been everything because I decided to buy, post you know, my husband and I kind of, my ex-husband and I should say, when we kind of moved our separate ways, I decided to invest in a property and then take that on. And while that was happening, I moved into an Airbnb about 5 times, I would like to say.
Oh really?
And yeah, and the experience itself kind of taught me so much about myself because here I was, very comfortable in my life. Um, and here's the funny thing: when you're not happy internally, it doesn't necessarily manifest into a blown reality, because life takes over. You have so many things that you need to be, so many people that you need to kind of convert into a mother, somebody who needs to clean the house, somebody who needs to cook, somebody who needs to pick up the kids. There are so many different personalities that you need to take on, that you
Hmm.
forget that there is that core inside you that is not exactly feeling whole you know so
Yes.
when I kind of moved away from that, there was a lot of realization, and a lot of connection within myself. And during that time, I remember like going to the gym, and I have a lot of friends of different ages. And this one friend of mine who's 22, I went up to him and I said, if you know someone who has an Airbnb space, would you please let me know? And he said, well, actually, I do. And I said, all right, that's awesome. I want to check it out. It was a room next to his room. Now, I have
Yeah.
never shared a room
Space.
since my college years. So
Right.
it was quite the experience moving into this kind of setup. I'm so grateful for him even sharing, because at that moment, what I wanted to do is conserve as much finances that I could, because I was investing into this property.
Right.
So when he offered that, I felt so grateful. But living with him for, I would say, close to about 2 months, was such a throwback into my teenage years and my college years, because I think you kind of move away from that. You get too comfortable. So it made me so uncomfortable that I had to kind of face all of those realities, all of those emotions in real time while I was doing all of this, or making all of these changes and moving in different directions. Um, Prior to that, I had already started this business, interior design business, and I was connecting with people. And funny enough, I had 3 clients at the same time. Started working with them. So there was so much going on, and at the same time processing all of that internally on my own. It was a lot,
Y-
but it was
You
an
know,
experience worth remembering.
absolutely. But let me circle back a minute because you're living in a room. You've come from, a very comfortable life. And now you're living in a room because you have time just with you at the end of the day. Yes, you're still doing and doing and doing. But like you said, you've come back to you again now and you're realizing you're like, it was almost a second chance at exactly because you started your college, right? Your career in fashion design. And then you get this new chapter starting again. And it's almost like it's bringing you back to where you started to allow you to grow from there.
Yes, I have to say that there were moments I remember just sitting down and thinking, what am I doing? What's going on? Like, what was this decision about, really? Because you question yourself. You've been
Yeah.
with, and again, my ex-husband and I, we're very amicable. We're still friends. So there wasn't really, anything really for me to move away from, other than the
Right.
fact that we did not really connect with each other. We were not emotionally connected. So
Yeah.
I think knowing that it wasn't such a drastic reason to kind of move in different directions, you kind of question yourself. What are you trying to achieve from this? What
Hmm.
is your real purpose in life? It all kind of circles back to you and being content with yourself.
Hmm.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
I feel like in relationships you can deviate from that very easily, because the kind of person I am, I'm a giver. That's
Hmm.
just my personality, and I have to learn to accept that.
Yeah.
And I also have to learn to understand that I also need, if not everything, but some kind of response from people around me, from my friends, from my family. So I think accepting is as important as giving, because sometimes you kind of go into the role of just being a giver and not receiving, and not respecting that purpose in your life.
You know,
um
you hit the nail on the head there because, pardon me. women tend to, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a giver because you're doing for everyone all the time. We have this internal emptiness because we don't know who we are. You lost yourself in the giving and the doing, and nothing was filling your cup, right? And to be able to be brave enough to say, I'm going to do this is huge, huge, because a lot of us stay there, right? We stay there
Yes.
because, okay, we don't have a really good emotional connection, but that's okay because he's a great guy. He's a great dad. He checks all these other boxes. But we need to be aligned as well. Like everything in our person needs to be aligned to feel whole, to feel complete for ourselves, even though regardless, you are perfect, whole, and complete exactly the way you are. But when you can see that gap and you can say, okay, what's in there? And now I get to figure it out. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. But you got to sit with yourself and you got to actually go through it and ask those hard, hard questions. That's where transformation happens, is when you ask yourself the hard questions and you trust yourself and you bring the truth forward.
Yes, I do agree. I think I'd like to add to that. That's absolutely it. But the one thing that I noticed is that um, during that process of sort of like sitting down and being by yourself and having that time to actually be by yourself,
Mm-hmm,
because now I had all these small moments where it was just me and the room that I was in,
mm-hmm,
and being in that moment kind of made me realize that how I've let go of myself in all of those years. And I'm not talking just being married,
well,
that's just one part of your life. I
mm-hmm,
mean, right from when you start growing up as a child,
mm-hmm,
you see your parents, and my parents didn't really get along. So, being a part of that kind of relationship, seeing through that, growing up in your teenage years, all of those little moments which you disregard, you think, well, that's fine. I can move on from this. And not actually sitting down with them at that point. I think we don't teach, our daughters how to process those moments in real time.
mm-hmm.
Because collectively, when you start, growing up, and then you become a mother, you become a wife, you have all those roles that you're playing, you bring those patterns into those relationships too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
your fear, your internal fear of not doing things. I was a very bold kid, very confident, but somewhere along the line, I lost those moments.
mm-hmm,
Somewhere along the line, those kind of diminished, internally. And I think to keep that alive, um, in a good relationship, it'll happen naturally. Your partner will pull you up, and I'm not saying that every partner has to be similar, but I'm saying in a good, healthy relationship in an environment, you will bring each other up, and
yeah,
that makes it easier. But sometimes you just have to do it yourself.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes you just have to tell yourself that this is it. You need to actually pull yourself up in those moments where you're feeling that you're not complete, and then sit down, take some time off. Take time off those duties that you've been
yeah,
assigned, and
yeah,
actually sit with your feelings, and process them in real
yeah.
time.
And like I said, it's not easy. It's not easy. You sit in that room and it's just you and yourself. And now you get to face them and you get to see where
Yeah,
you've lost that confidence or where you chose a different path. And, you know, but the power comes in this is my belief is you're coming home to yourself. You're coming home to you. That power within us, and I say this to many women all the time, we have the power. The power is still there. It's not like we found our power or we finally got our power. The power just has layers of
right,
stuff on top of it. So we have to break through those layers. And that's what you got to do in that time. You got to break through some of those layers to discover that the power that wants to come through now can. And it's a
right.
beautiful story. It is. and what you get to give your girls and what they get to learn from that, and other women listening to this podcast, what they get to hear when they see that it wasn't easy and, I did do this or I did whatever. It's beautiful. Just
Thank
beautiful.
you. I mean, it was kind of cathartic, I think, to kind of like, as I was doing this apartment, it was getting gut renovated, and I was sort of gut renovating myself internally during that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
It was ironic in that way that, but I have to say one of my I think the pride that I feel is when my daughter, my older one, she's 14, she looked at me one day and she says, "Mommy, I am so proud of you. What you've done is you made those changes to make yourself happy, and I haven't seen you so happy in such a long while." And I mean, that to me was it just blew me away, because I said, I didn't expect that reaction from a 14-year-old, or that kind of, insight from a
Mm.
14-year-old.
Yeah.
So for me, there was just a moment of, and this was fairly, earlier in the stages of when I was going through all of this. So it kind of like pulled something out of me at that point. So
That's
it's just like my children sort of gave back to me, you know, uh, in so many different ways during that time. Um, it was an amazing feeling to kind of know that they also understand what's going on, that it's hard for me, but I'm still doing it. And
yeah.
someday they will know that uh, settling down for anything in your life is never going to get you anywhere that you want. Never settle down, because when you settle down, you're settling down with yourself. You're settling down being whatever you are, but not fully what you need to be. You know, you have to be who you are in your entire package. And then you can sort of make those decisions on what do you want to do? Whom do you want to be with? If that
Mhm.
kind of like is just settling down with someone or settling for something, is just not going to cut it. Some point it'll catch up with you, and you will have to kind of redirect your path in life.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, the purpose for me for this podcast is to allow women to see the possibilities in themselves through other stories. And the, you know, unstoppable doesn't happen once and you're good. Being unstoppable is a process, and it's a practice that you practice every day, because there's always going to be something that's going to come up. There's always going to be different areas that we want to grow. There's going to be a different, scenarios that come up. But you take your love for and the growth. I think, how has your business changed for that? You're seeing this, and you've renovated places and you've created new spaces and you've done it through your heart. And what's something that people may underestimate about their physical surroundings as well? Because we can work on this, but if we have these things that still bring us down in our personal space, it doesn't jive. So what do you
Right.
say about that?
Um, I think for me, my home is a place where uh, I balance my energies. If I have a bad day, it kind of gives me a warm hug. Um, if I'm in a happy mood, it kind of like brightens up with me. So my home is really a space for me and my children, right? So it has to kind of have that energy that reflects all of us.
Hmm.
I think what we generally what we take a home as is just a place we sleep or eat, but that's not how it works. I think energy in a space is really important. If I were to say one thing about how to kind of like think about your home and your space, is really connecting deeper with yourself and what you want it to give you, because it's there for you. It's not the other way around. It's not meant to be decorative. It's not meant to be beautiful. Those things are great. It's great to have stylish decor. It's great to have a nice space, a good, quality things. But at the end of the day, the feel that it gives you is really more important. So when you walk into your space, what does it reflect to you? And if there's a disconnect there, if there's chaos, if there's things that are, that kind of like are your pain points, you look at it and you kind of like shirk away. I have a lot of people like who talk about, clients who talk about, when I walk into my space, I'm embarrassed to call anyone over. So for me, that's a reflection of how that space is treating them. It's not about
Hmm.
you treating the space, right? So I would say that that energy is really truly important, and I think to kind of figure out a way of working through that, um, be it within your budget or not, there are ways of doing it. You know.
Everything is energy, and you hit the nail on the head there by saying that if it's about how it treat you, like you need to have a safe place. Your home is your safe place. And, for you and your girls, my home is my safe place for myself, my husband, and my family when they come. And I have to share this because this brought up something for me, and it almost made me a little emotional because when my parents passed, I have a lot of their stuff, like stuff, just stuff. And the guilt of
Mm.
getting rid of it was very hard for me because it was theirs, and they worked so hard for everything they had, and they had all these, so, and it was so difficult for me to weed through. And once I became aligned with who I chose to be and what worked the best for me, and that's these conversations, this um space that I've created for women, my life and my home has changed. I have decluttered. I have thrown things away. I have started to cleanse the space around me. The energy is completely different now. And I've always loved my home. It's always been my home, but I can so hear what you're saying because now that I'm aligned, my home is becoming aligned as well. And that energy, that
Yes.
space is so much different.
Yes, and I think we don't kind of, I feel that we don't pay enough attention because our lives are so busy. Most
Yes.
most people are working. There's so much of movement happening in their lives, right? So
Yes.
it's hard to pay attention to these small things, that how they affect you. If when you come back home, you have kids to feed, you have laundry to do, you have dishes to place, um your food to cook. I feel like you kind of lose the value of just having that one space where you
Mhm.
can calm yourself down, because you have to go back the next day and do those exact same things, right? You need to kind of de-stress, you need to kind of unwind. And I think how you place your home, how you create the energy around you affects that. Because recharging really isn't just about meditating or doing yoga, or going to the gym. It's also about how you just sit with yourself, by yourself, doing things you love. Maybe you like music, maybe you like to draw or journal, but creating those spaces that kind of revolve around that. If you like music, then maybe having a space where you've created this little nook for yourself, where your favorite nook, you finished your work, now you want to go and just listen to some music. So sit in that area, listen to that music. It will revive you, because those things are so important. To kind of, we are human beings, we need to have something back into us
Yeah.
every single day, not once in 6 months for a vacation, every single day. So I kind
Yeah.
of really try to create those spaces for whomever I work with. I encourage my friends to do it all the time. They get annoyed with me sometimes, so that's okay. but but
I
I
think
mean, I
that's
feel
part of
like
the
I'm
job.
constant. I'm sorry.
I think that's part of the job. Once we start
Right,
working on
exactly.
ourselves and become aligned and everything, and we see what's possible and the power in it, we want to give it away to everybody, right?
Right, exactly. Exactly. I just feel like I'm pretty unstoppable when it comes to that, because
Right.
I kind of always encourage people. If I go in, I say, you can do this. I mean, I am probably the annoying person who gives you advice, when it's not needed. But because you're a friend, you'll just take it anyways. So that's how it
I love
works.
it. I love, love, love that. So, I all of your information is going to be in the show notes for everyone if they want to contact you, if they want some advice. Now, I know that you do a lot of in-home work around where you are, but do you do any virtual work as well with people?
Yes, I do virtual. I think, given that it's so easy to do a virtual, say, a call with you, you're, literally
Yes.
across. But yes, that is something that I love doing. It just works a little differently. I have all the details on my website. Um, but I love clients from anywhere. So
I
yes,
love that.
absolutely.
That's beautiful. So then anyone listening can connect. So what is I kind of want this question to be something for our listeners to really hear, but what is one thing listeners can shift in their homes this week to feel more supported?
So I would say start small. I think the overwhelm is definitely where we kind of stall on what we want to do. Start small. Pick one area. It could be a kitchen counter. It could be your one shelf that you've been trying to, which kind of when you look at it, makes you doesn't make you feel good. So think about how you could make it better. Take out whatever you are not using. For instance, if you have things that you love, books, uh, favorite pieces that you picked up from a trip, place them. But if there's things that you absolutely do not know why they're there, get rid of them. There's no need for them to be around because you're not connecting with those things. They're just going to make you miserable, right? Once you've done that, you have Pinterest, go on to Pinterest, see how you can actually arrange that one area, right? But it
Mhm.
really starts with you decluttering because if you
Yep.
have
Yep.
so many things, you're not going to understand how to actually get around them. Um, Storage, that's a great way of sort of minimizing visual chaos, So even on a shelf, you can think of how to store your things, you can make it look pretty. Um, Also, when you look at it, it has to connect with you deeply. So if you have a special book that you love reading every now and then,
Mhm.
place that in the center so you kind of have that every day. You look at it. For me, it's my kitchen counter. I have an open shelf. I love it. I it gives me a feeling of going on vacations in countryside, where you have those old homes and they have the open shelving and you have like pretty, beautiful cups and coffee mugs, and so for me that's how I connect every morning when I'm making my coffee. It's right there. It's all the things I've collected. It's little vintage pieces. So it's how you connect with it. But
That's beautiful.
definitely declutter and start small, I'd say.
I love that. I do. I love that advice. And and I'm looking around right now and around me I have specific things that I like to have around me when I'm doing these podcasts because they bring me joy and they make me feel grounded and they give me peace. And I love that. I love that feeling. So thank you for sharing that. That's really important. And start small, like is big too, because we do get overwhelmed very easily because we're trying to do not only the things that we do every day in our lives, but then we're adding on another task. It feels like, oh, I have something else to do. Well, if it's bringing you joy in the end, then it's not a task that should be at the bottom of the list. Bring that
Right.
task up closer to the top of the list and add joy into your life on a daily basis.
Yes. Yep.
I love that.
That's beautifully said.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And your story is beautiful because it almost like I just love the full circle. I love how you've created this for other people to feel the way that you get to feel in your home and make it a part of them. And it's not just about the things, it's about the connection. And that's beautiful. That is really beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so honored to be here and speaking with you. I mean, I connected with you instantly, so I felt
No,
this is
me
such an honor.
too.
Thank you.
Me too. Is there anything that you would like to share to the listeners before we say goodbye?
Um, I'd say be beautiful, believe in yourself, stand up for yourself, show up for yourself, even in small moments. Show up when you feel sad, show up when you feel happy. Just show up. That's it. Every single day, just show up for yourself.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you so much for listening today. And I think that this is going to be a story that we get to connect with again. So till the next time, everyone have a beautiful day. Thank you for joining me on this episode of The Art of Being Unstoppable. Remember, your story matters, your voice matters, and your power is limitless. If you love today's conversation, subscribe, share it with the women in your life, and leave a review to help more women discover their unstoppable selves. I'm Vicki McDougall, and I'll see you in the next episode, because your journey to unstoppable starts now.